Good morning, everyone. My name is Anurag Kedia, and I'm the co-founder of Pilgrim. Today, I'm here to talk about the science of 10x consumer brands. Now, a natural question could be, what do I mean by 10x consumer brands? So, if you look at the old FMCG playbook, it said it takes a very long period of time to build a large consumer brand, which is loved by consumers, certain scale. So typically that scale was defined as $100 million annual revenue rate. This was considered a large enough brand, and it would take up to a decade to create a brand like this. However, what I define 10x consumer brands are the brands which bend time, which achieve this in less than a fraction of this time, so couple of years, sometimes maximum 4 to 5 years, and that is what we will discuss today. How do we go about creating 10x consumer brands using principles and laws of science from different fields of science? So there are 3 laws today we will study which can help us create 10x consumer brands. When we look up at the night sky, what do we normally see? We see stars. But can it also show us consumer brands? That is what we are going to discuss. So the first law we are going to discuss is the Drake equation. I have not put down the equation here. It's a very complex equation. It tells us if we have to estimate how many civilizations it might be possible to communicate to in the Milky Way. What is important in this equation to remember is it's a series of multiplying factors. It's not an addition, it's a series of multiplying factors. That is what we have borrowed to create the brand growth index. You will see there are 3 multiplying factors here, and we will discuss each of them in detail. It's desire creation, into consumer experience, into communication. What do we mean by desire creation? The fundamental job of any brand is to create desire, in the minds of the consumers so that the consumers would want to buy that product or service offered by the brand. How do we do this? We do this by creating and sharing stories which are culturally relevant and which solve the problem of the consumers. And I'll share an example from our own journey. We know that India as a market, as consumers in India, we use a lot of hair oils. Our grandmothers, our mothers and sisters, everybody have told us how important hair oil as a part of the regime for taking care of our hair and scalp is. However, if you look at hair oil in the modern context, it is oily, it is sticky, it is messy, and often you want to wash it off after a couple of hours or maximum the next day. Now this was the cultural context. Using this context, we said, what is it that the consumers are trying to achieve by using a hair oil? They're trying to solve problems of hair and scalp. Can we solve the same problems in a new modern age format, at the same time solve the problems which a hair oil has? So we came up with the format of a hair growth serum which is water based. Now since it's a water based serum, you can apply it and you don't need to wash it off. So this was the cultural insight that oils were a big part of our society, but it would also create certain problems which we tried to solve. Now once we have created this product, how do we communicate this message in a credible manner? We communicate this message in a credible manner using content creators of different kinds across the country. Earlier, the typical way of communicating your message as a brand was to work with celebrities. Today, it's a combination of working with celebrities, at the same time, work with content creators at scale. As a brand, we work with more than 500 content creators to share some of these stories which we have created. The other thing to remember is to amplify this content creation digitally. Why I am saying digitally specifically is, earlier any communication by a brand was typically on a national television. And hence, the same piece of communication would go and talk to everybody in the house. Today we have the opportunity to have a tailor-made communication to a student here in Indore versus a housewife in Solapur versus a 50-year-old businessman in Delhi. So everybody for the same product can receive a different piece of communication. That's what digital amplification of media allows us to do. The 10x mindset here is to build products thinking for one ideal consumer in mind, not for the entire crowd, because when you stand for everything, for everybody, you stand for nothing, for nobody. If you are sharp in the offering, chances are we will see some success. The second part of the brand growth index, which was inspired by Drake equation, is CX or consumer experience. Now, what do I mean by consumer experience? Consumer experience starts the moment you receive the product. The packaging is a part of the consumer experience. What is it that the packaging communicates to you? Is there some storytelling, some reinforcement of the purchase which has been done on the packaging itself? Today, when we buy online, we just don't buy. We actually gift ourselves. Now, when we are making a gift to ourselves and the brown box reaches our home, there is a lot of excitement with which we open the brown box as if some magic is going to pop out of that brown box. So as a brand, it's the responsibility of the brand that we are actually sending out magic to consumers. What is the brand swag? What is the merchandise we can send out as a part of the unboxing experience apart from the product which the consumer is anyway ordered and expecting? And the most important bit here is whatever brand promise the consumer has made. In a beauty product, it could typically be the product will deliver X in Y days. Did the product deliver? That is the most important part of the consumer experience. The 10x mindset here is not to count consumer complaints in percentages, but absolute numbers. Imagine you are selling 100,000 units of a product every month and you receive 5% complaints. You might feel that 95% of the consumers are happy. But what happens to the 5% or 5,000 consumers who are actually unhappy? Maybe they were saying something very unique and the other consumers didn't even reach out to you. So it's important to look at each consumer anecdotal feedback also and count it in absolute numbers and aspire to bring out the consumer complaints as the brand and the product journey progresses. The next bit of the brand growth index is communication journey. And where does the communication journey start? The communication journey starts the moment you come across the brand or the product the first time in your life. Where does it, what is the midpoint for that or an intermission for that? When you have landed on the product page on the website where you might be making a sale. Now what is important to remember here is, in a one-to-one conversation in the physical world, you are able to understand the consumer and make your pitch tailor-made to that consumer. Here, we have to anticipate the hesitations and the barriers which a consumer might have. Not only do you have to communicate clear benefits, not just the product features, but also answer all the hesitations and barriers which a consumer might have even without the consumer has voiced them. That's the critical part. And then staying in touch at every step of the journey. Let's say the consumer has actually made a purchase on the website. Now we already have the consumer's contact details. What are we going to do with it? Are we going to send a plain, boring message saying your order has been placed, your order is out for delivery, or can we actually make it a brand engagement journey? What could it mean in the context of beauty? It could mean that if you have ordered a product with us, can we give you some skincare tips? Can we send out some more testimonials which reinforce your belief in the purchase you have made? Can we tell you how to use this product and how important it is to be regular with the product? Can we give you a nudge after a week or 10 days saying, are you regularly using the product? Are you facing a problem? Can we have a dialogue with the consumers instead of a monologue? Monologue of consumers listening to what the brands were saying is the old way. The new way is where you have a dialogue with the consumers and you're constantly interacting with the consumers. The 10x mindset here is communication is a relationship and not just a campaign. We just spoke about how it has to be a dialogue and not a monologue with the consumers. So this was the first law we saw, the Drake's equation. The second law we will talk about is swarm intelligence. We have all seen ants, tiny ants. They go and hunt down a large animal. How do they do that? They use three principles in this. One, they act locally, they act quickly, and they double down on their wins. What does this mean? Act locally. When you're launching a product or a brand, the temptation could be to go after a very large opportunity, right? However, if there is a very large opportunity, we have to realize it will have a lot of competition from a lot of large brands. That's not the place to start for a young brand. Where do we go and start? We go and identify niche opportunities, small opportunities which the large players may not even be noticing. And we'll see an example around that. So when you go and don't launch one product or two products, identify many such opportunities and launch many such products in different niche markets. We don't know which one is going to work, but we'll figure out. The second is act quickly. Once you have actually launched products, you are going to receive feedback on how the product is performing and is the communication resonating with the consumers. We spoke about having cultural resonance and problem-solving communication with the consumers. Once you have actually been in the market, we will receive a lot of feedback from consumers, both on communication and the product. It is important to iterate both the communication and the product to make it better than whatever the version 1 was. And the last bit is double down. Now this one will sound obvious that if something is working, if a product is working, you will start investing a lot of marketing dollars behind that. However, the other important part of this is to kill the products which were not working. Remember, we said we'll launch a lot of products. Let's say we launch 10 products. Now 1 or 2 or 3 might have started showing a lot of traction. They started seeing a lot of sales. You will obviously invest marketing money there. What happens to the others? Kill them. Ruthlessly kill them. At Pilgrim, we kill 30 to 40% of our products every year which were launched in the prior year because we know that we cannot have a very large portfolio and say that we'll focus on everything. The third law we will discuss is the law of occupancy from ecology. What does this say? This says that which species will survive in the long term. Occupancy means how many habitats does a species occupy in the world. What does this mean in the context of consumer brands? When you start a consumer brand, you typically will start with 1 or 2 channels, 1 or 2 marketplaces maybe. However, as time goes and you're seeing success, it is very important to diversify the channels and be present across every single channel where the consumer is buying. This is true not just for online, but also offline. So eventually, I'll encourage that you start with online, go across all the online channels, and then start going offline. I'd like to share a journey from Pilgrim's journey. An example from Pilgrim's journey, and this is the AHA BHA peeling solution. Now a lot of you might feel, what is this product? We launched this product 5 years back, and this was a unique product to the Indian market. I'll give you an example which is a little more familiar with us. Many of us have seen or used physical exfoliators, a walnut-based scrub, which you apply on your face, and it will take away the dead cells and the top layer of the skin to make your skin brighter, smoother, etc. That's the old way of scrubbing your face or exfoliating your face. The new way is to use a chemical-based peel. It is actually so much nicer, gentler, and more powerful than the physical exfoliators. However, in India, nobody knew about this term. The peeling solution term, in fact, sounded very strange to consumers. Today, we sell more than 1 million units every year, and this product is going 100% year on year. So, when we launched this product, the important thing to note here is this was not the only product we had launched. Remember, we spoke about launching many products driven by consumer insights across categories. That's what we did. This was one of the products which started showing traction. Once we realized that this product was showing traction, how did we amplify? We created vernacular content. So often we think that India speaks Hindi or English, but that's not true. We created content in Tamil, in Telugu, in Marathi, in Gujarati, in Bengali, in Bhojpuri, and so many other Indian languages, which helped us reach the consumers and educate the consumers about what a peeling solution could do for them. The unboxing experience, when you opened, we spoke about, when we buy online, how we gift ourselves. When you open the brown box, there were a lot of brand merchandise which we were sending out, which delighted the consumers. And the storytelling inside the pack. If you cut open the carton of any Pilgrim product, including the peeling solution, you will see a nice caricature of a nice place in some part of the world, which you can color using crayons and sketch pens. Perhaps one of the first done by any brand across the globe. Now this creates a lot of connect with the consumers and creates a lot of consumer delight. The second one we spoke about, swarm intelligence. You act locally. So we launched multiple niche products, not just this one. This one did well, and the ones which did not do well, we killed them ruthlessly, saying this is not showing traction. Act quickly. So we received feedback that when you applied this peeling solution, you had to wash it off after 10 to 15 minutes. But keeping a track of time, keeping a timer was getting very cumbersome. This was the feedback consumers gave us. So what did we do? We added a slight tingling feeling to the solution, which would die down after 10 to 15 minutes. So once the tingling had stopped, the consumers would intuitively know that this product had to be then washed off. This is basis consumer feedback. Version 1 of the product did not have this tingling. Version 2 of this product had the tingling because the consumers told us that this is the way they wanted it. Double down, obviously we scaled marketing budget significantly, which is why this product sells the quantities we do and still growing 100% year on year. Applying law of occupancy. When we launched 5 years back, we were present across just 2 marketplaces, but today we sell in more than 15 online channels and more than 10,000 offline stores. So to sum it up, the 3 scientific laws which can help us create 10x brands. The first, Drake equation. What is important to remember here in Drake equation, or our version of Drake equation, which is the brand growth index, is it's a series of multiplying factors. It's not an addition. What this means is that even if one factor you get a 0 or a low score, the entire brand growth stumbles. So it's important to get at least an 8 by 10, if not 10 by 10 on all the factors. It's a multiplication, it's not an addition. Swarm intelligence, act locally, iterate quickly and double down. Act locally would mean launch many products in niche markets and not 1 or 2 products in very large markets. The large markets are already red ocean and crowded by competition. Iterate quickly. Once you launch, you will receive feedback on the communication, on the product, incorporate it to make a better communication and better product, and scale wins and kill down products which are not doing well. Law of occupancy. Sell across as many channels as possible, both online and offline. That's what ecology tells us. Let us all build many more 10x consumer brands because the consumers deserve it. Thank you.